Hey folks, and welcome back to part 8 of Let's Play Pokémon FireRed and LeafGreen. Last time around we defeated Lieutenant Surge, and as you can see on our trainer card, we have the Thunder badge now. Alrighty, well, for the first time in the game, we're gonna diverge from the linear path that the game provides, and we're gonna have to backtrack and look for an alternate route to the next city, because as you remember, all the gates to Saffron City are locked because all the guards on duty are thirsty. Before you head out, make sure to stock up on repels, sell all the items like Stardusts, Nuggets, Star Pieces for extra cash, whatever you may need, and head into Diglettz Cave. Last time around we only briefly visited the place, I mean, not like we're gonna stay here today much longer, but last time we only caught a Diglett. And while going through this cave, thankfully there are no hidden items here. Just slap on a repel and cross your fingers that you won't run into a Dugtrio even, because even if you are overleveled like my party is for this point in the game, none of them are actually exempt from being able to run into a Dugtrio because their encounter levels are so high. Like I mentioned, the Diglettz Cave connects the Kanto region quite well, and we're back on Route 2, right next to Pewter City. And in this house, you have one of these another only one event Pokemon in form of trade. And if you've brought your Abra along on the journey, you can trade it for a Mr. Mime, a very cool Psychic type Pokemon. It has nice move coverage, and it has the ability to set up your team with very cool defensive moves that affect the whole party in battle. If I didn't already have my Psychic type Pokemon planned out, I'd definitely recommend using a Mr. Mime because it's so original. My only issue with in-game traded Pokemon is that you can't change their nicknames even with the name raider, and that really, I don't know. I like the personality of my own Pokemon by nicknaming them myself, you know? I guess that's what always deters me from using Pokemon like Mr. Mime or Farfetch'd. Even though I used both of them in my previous playthroughs, I mean, I've played this game literally dozens of times at this point. I absolutely love it, as you can probably tell. Anyhow though, in this house, the next professor's aide we encounter will teach you, or teach one of your Pokemon, Flash, the next HM move, used to illuminate caves in the overworld. Its in-battle use is really bad, but surprisingly enough, a lot of Pokemon can learn it. You know, when I was younger, growing up, I always thought, man, I probably needed like a Psychic type or an Electric type, something that can use a special power to bring light. And turns out a regular cat like Meowth can somehow illuminate a cave. I really don't know the design choice behind that. But thankfully it's cool because we don't have to clog up our party spaces with any more Pokemon we don't plan to use. Also, if you've picked up Cut and you travel back to Viridian, you can actually find this move tutor that will teach one of your Pokemon the move called Dream Eater. If you've put your opponent to sleep and you eat its dreams, causing that Pokemon to have nightmares, you'll deal damage to him through the sleep. It's one of the most, I guess, mostly well-designed moves, I guess clever design, smart design, I'm not sure. It's cool. I guess that's a posh way of me saying that it's a very cool move. It's a cool idea, really. If you go to Pewter City and you now get to the back door of the Pewter City Museum, you can pick up an old amber here, another fossil that can be revived on Cinnabar Island like that scientist stalked back in Mount Moon. And this won't give you quite an underwhelming Pokemon for this generation. It will actually give you a very cool one, so make sure to pick that up. On my way back through Diglettz Cave, because we actually have to go to Cerulean, I run into Dugtrio, and because they all have the hidden ability or the passive ability Arena Trap, you can actually escape from those battles. So I said, hey, why don't I try to catch it one more time? And this time around, turns out it was quite easy. But again, where we need to go is right on Route 9, next to Cerulean City. And you cut this tree and you have a brand new route with a whole bunch of trainers and a way to progress on your journey. Whenever I was younger, this is the part of the game where I'd get stuck, especially if I didn't play the game for a long time and misremembered. But you know, especially on your original playthrough, you're definitely gonna be lost here. If you're not an explorer, and I'm not sure how many, I don't know, 7, 8-year-olds tend to explore every route they come across really in depth, they'll probably get stuck here too. So, well, thankfully, I don't have a problem with that as a grown man, but, you know, as a kid I definitely did. One of my gripes with this particular section of the game and the upcoming dungeon actually is that a lot of the trainers that are set in front of you have a bunch of repeat Pokemon. The ones that don't I'll show off obviously on screen, but most of them do. You'll be fighting Pikachu's, Rattatas so many times until the next gym pretty much. I don't know. I think that this game, for being the remake of the first generation, definitely tried to, I suppose, reel in some more players that never experienced the first generation of Pokemon before. And because of that, they put in front of you so many trainers and opportunities for you not to get stuck in the game or get underleveled, that it's turned into this grind fest of so many different trainer encounters back to back to back on pretty much every new route you find without, you know, without much nuance, I suppose. That said though, this bug catcher does have a Venonat. This is a Pokemon we won't be able to find for quite a while, but it's actually really cool. Sadly, even though it evolves into a moth, it doesn't evolve into a partial flying type. It still sticks with its poison bug typing. Jesus Christ, I said poison bug. Oh my god. So yeah, it's kind of a weird design choice when it comes to the Venonat evolution line or family line, but oh well. I should have said family tree because it's a bug and it would have made my comment more smart. Oh well, I'll jot that down for next time. There's also quite a bit of items on routes like these. This is very reminiscent to Route 3 before Mount Moon, and yeah, it's fitting because we're also having this route right before another cave dungeon, so yeah, look out for berry spots. You'll get an opportunity to use your item finder once or twice, and yeah, keep chugging along because you're pretty close to your next dungeon. Off screen, between these clips that you're watching right now, I actually did go back to Mount Moon to try to get my big and tiny mushrooms that I talked about missing all the way back in episodes 2 or 3. And surprisingly enough, or much to my surprise, unlike the underground path where you can actually find all the items after getting the item finder, it's not the case for Mount Moon apparently. It just looks like they're gone from my game. I'm really confused. I'm not sure how that happened or why. I was definitely expecting to be able to find them after getting the item finder at the very least, and it doesn't seem to be the case. So again, if you're playing along at this part of the game, if you have picked up the item finder like I, please go back to Mount Moon and tell me if the items now appear in your game save, because for some reason they're gone from mine. Oh well. Well, on the bright side, no pun intended because it's quite a bright animation, Spectre is evolving. That's right, at level 28, Mankeys do naturally evolve into their next stage, which is a Primeape. I absolutely love the design choice of having the pissed off emote right on its forehead. I think it's a really, you know, it shows off the personality of the Pokemon so well without actually necessarily noting to it. And again, we're looking at if Meowth has a held item after every battle. But we can also check out the summary of the Primeape, and you can tell how much our stats have really increased with this evolution. Primeape, much like Wigglytuff, is one of those evolutions where I'd considered not actually evolving quite as early as I can. With Wigglytuff, as you remember, I talked about that at level 34, Jigglypuff learns Body Slam, which is a very powerful stab type, you know, normal move. And that would have been useful, but I ultimately decided against that because it's so late in the game. I mean, we still wouldn't have a Wigglytuff if I chose to go that route. However, Mankeys have the ability to learn Cross Chop, a very powerful fighting type move at level 31, so I strongly consider delaying the evolution for 3 levels. But ultimately, again, this isn't a move, unlike Body Slam, that we won't be able to pick up through natural level up again, so Primeape will get Cross Chop just later on down the path, which is quite nice because I actually do kind of need Scratch to catch all these wild encounters, because everything else that we have as our move pool just knocks out the wild Pokemon on this stage. But that said though, we're on Route 10. On Route 9 there's no new encounters. On Route 10 there is a new encounter, and it's a Voltorb. I talked about this one a lot, and it was one of my considerations, one of my top considerations for the electric member of my party. Ultimately I decided against it because, well, it's mostly a Pokemon with a very limited moveset, especially in this generation, and a lot of Pokemon in this generation suffer from that. So I really did try my best to eliminate most of the Pokemon that fit into that category. In the Pokemon Center right before the next dungeon you can pick up an Everstone. It's a held item for Pokemon to make them not evolve ever. It's not really useful that much. I actually originally, when I first played the game as a very young kid, I thought that the Everstone said that it pushes the Pokemon further to evolve, and because I didn't have the internet at that point, I never really researched traded evolutions. And I think that at that point in the game I had a Haunter or something, maybe a Machop or a Machop in my party that was just so over leveled, and I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, this thing is never gonna evolve. And I know that there's an evolved form because I collect the cards and watch the anime. So I thought that the Everstone actually made my Pokemon evolve, but of course it didn't. I just needed to trade the first time we got a Pokemon to its second stage with somebody else, and it would instantly evolve. But oh well, I was an idiot. It's an endearing story though, so I'm glad that it happened. Okay, so we're finally in the next dungeon. Right off the bat, just like Mount Moon, we're gonna cover all the encounters, and there's only 2 now. It's Onyx and Machop, and I actually talked about at length about both of these Pokemon last time around. Well, not necessarily last time, but throughout the Let's Play. I think that both of them are incredibly underwhelming. Onyx definitely the worst of the 2 because of its awful base stats. Just the fact that Pokemon like Oddish can have a higher attack base stat than an Onyx just speak volumes of how bad the Pokemon is in this generation. And the Machop I covered, I believe, actually last time, and just how slow it is, and just how late you pick it up. I mean, fighting types are really optimal to get before rock type gyms, you know? So, yeah, Mankey's perfect. This dungeon's gimmick is the fact that you will need flash to progress through it. Well, technically you don't, but you saw how the camera looked if you didn't have flash equipped. It was awful. And I was never one of those players in any Pokemon game that could traverse dungeons easily without flash, rather. I was never one of those types that could just map out the entire dungeon in my head as I moved along the 4 very obscured spaces you have allotted if you don't have flash, with everything else blacked out. But I actually also talked about this in the Mount Moon episode, but this dungeon introduces a new trainer type called Pokemaniacs, and they will have some cool Pokemon. For example, the first one we see right here had a Cubone. It's a pure ground type, and it's actually very cool. It has a move that it learns naturally that's actually only able to be picked up by the Cubone family tree. It's called Bone Meringue, and much like Bullet Seed and Fury Swipes, it's actually a ground type move that hits multiple times. And again, it's exclusive to the Cubone family, which is pretty cool. It's a pure ground type, but however, I think that you're better off going with a Diglett. Again, I never really praised Diglett as much as I wanted to, but it's definitely one of those ground types, pure ground types, that I would recommend over everything else in the game if you're just, you know, unless you're going for pure power, in which case, again, like I said, all the way back at the start of the game, just go for a Nidoking. But yeah. Also, a cool trivia fact about Cubone that's actually pretty dark and somber. The skulls that Cubone wear are actually skulls of their mothers. I'm not sure why or where the biology drifts apart, but for some reason every Cubone sees its mother pass away and all of them end up wearing their skulls on their head. Nah, it's a little bit weird, but nah, I guess stick with me, guys. It's a cool trivia fact. No need to get all sappy and sad. It is really sad though, Jesus Christ. Anyway, whew. Back to fighting more Pokemaniacs. This one had Charmander, and I thought I'd include it. Not only that, but because inside dungeons, Secret Power acts as Bite. Has the same animation, and it also could inflict flinch. Like you saw in the overworld when we were battling in just regular routes, it was the animation for Body Slam. So, yeah. It's pretty cool. I do like Body Slam better than Bite though, because it can inflict paralysis, where Bite can only flinch. Here we have another Cubone. Doesn't look as sad now. That sprite really looks him, you know, makes him look like a badass, but yeah, don't get it twisted. It's a very it's one of those Pokemon you just want to hug and say, everything's gonna be okay, buddy. At least that was my initial impression when watching one of the Pokemon Origins episodes that features the Cubone, but maybe I should talk about that when we actually get to Lavender Town. Well, don't worry guys, it's gonna come along soon enough. Level 29, Eden tries to learn Sweet Scent, the move really popularized by the Oddishes you encounter in the wild or from other trainers, and it's a really bad move. It has one of the coolest animations for the capabilities of the Game Boy Advance for this time, but I wouldn't necessarily ever recommend having Sweet Scent on your team unless you're doing a gimmicky competitive team with somehow evasiveness playing a major role in it. I just don't see it happening though. So yes, the Rock Tunnel suffers from everything I spoke about on Route 9. It just has a bunch of trainers with very few nuanced Pokemon that we haven't encountered before, and again, it's just an XP fest for your team. I do like, as you've noticed by this point in the Let's Play, I do like fighting all the trainers. I don't want to miss out on any potential Pokédex listings we could, and I really like the XP. I mean, I'm a huge RPG fan, so any free XP, any free battle that's gonna lend me more XP than a wild encounter, I'm gonna take. So yeah, you'll probably be seeing a lot of cuts in this Let's Play as a whole. The next thing I want to talk about is kind of the layout of the dungeon. It's much smaller in terms, you know, of area of effect compared to Mount Moon, but as you can tell by the walls and the different rock formations and where they're set, you have to think of it from the game designer's point of view. And why the dungeon looks like that in comparison to Mount Moon, that definitely was kind of hallway oriented, especially towards the later parts. You can easily tell that this dungeon was definitely made to just inconvenience every player that didn't have Flash or didn't know that they could pick up Flash at this point of the game. So because of that, all the walls and all the split pathways are really unintuitive to traverse. And yeah, you'll be making wrong turns left and right with the lights on, let alone without Flash. And I think that's the main gimmick and definitely the design of this place. Plus, with that, when you add up all the trainers that you can fight, you can definitely tell how annoying the experience would be if you actually didn't see where you were going. I think that in total the dungeon has 15 trainers, and most of them again are not unique. There's also thankfully no hidden items in Rock Tunnel, which would make it even more annoying. But again, if you have Flash, really all or every single part of the dungeon is cleared up. on one of the pathways that I talked about being split, I missed out on a move tutor who's gonna teach us Rockslide. Definitely the improved version of Rock Tomb that we already have on Spectre, so that's gonna drastically improve our rock type damage dealing. But with that, we really have nothing else to do here. We've backtracked quite a bit, picked up a lot of items and a fossil, and next time we're gonna get out of Rock Tunnel and explore the next city in the game. See ya guys then.